Sunday, October 2nd, 8:23. I realize now why I hate doing YouTubes, because I hate looking at my face. I've always hated it. It's one of my phobias, looking at myself in the mirror in the morning, or ever looking at myself in the mirror. I don't like to look at myself. I look at other things, intensely. And so when I'm looking at myself, I'm looking at myself intensely. It's like Van Gogh or something. You don't want to see all the imperfections and, I've got to take care. But I was reading Warren Beatty, not reading it, but I picked it up in a bookstore. Warren Beatty with James Toback. James Toback was his director, and Toback was the guy with like 30, 40, 50 sexual assault charges, rape, sexual predator. He's disappeared because you just disappear him. Harvey Weinstein's in jail. What happened to Toback? He was Alec Baldwin's pal. Alec Baldwin was when they were setting up. This happened with the guy that ran the magazine in Santa Fe. They set up little, you can be a star, and we're going to make a movie with you, and then the girls come in, and then you start making suggestions, and then you start drugging them, and pretty soon, you see if they're amenable to a sexual advance, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. The ones who like a Toback or a Roman Polanski, and I won't go into the whole list of names because I'm not in the National Enquirer. I'm simply saying that Warren Beatty is obsessed with his own looks, how he's lit, how he's looking at his face. He's a robotic kind of person. I call that a psychopath. And he's playing psychopaths all the time. And Toback, who's directing him, and he's the one writing about this, because they think they're getting away with it, and they are getting away with it because the American public believes the illusion. They don't believe how the illusion is created and who creates the illusion. Like all of these gangster movies, they love gangsters. Shirley MacLaine loved gangsters, and Warren Beatty loved gangsters, and James Caan loved gangsters. They are gangsters. So it's a gangster country. All this leads up to my main point, not judging people for their moral lapses, but pointing out the consequences of being completely deluded and believing that the illusion is reality. In the example of America, it's believing we're the world's greatest superpower. And any country that defies us gets immediately invaded, whether they have chemical weapons or nuclear weapons or not. The Bush administration well knew they didn't have chemical or nuclear weapons. They had no evidence of that at all because there weren't any. They said they did, just like Schiff and Pelosi and the rest said they had evidence that Trump was guilty, and they didn't. But they said they did over and over and over, and they're still saying they do. And they're still saying he's guilty, even though, in other words, the left delusionally, just like the right in their own way, for their own reasons, delusionally thinks Trump is a kind of savior on the side of the right wing, and that he's the evil fascist dictator. Both things are absolutely delusional. It's just like all the people believing in Joseph Stalin, even though he killed 100 million people, or all the people believing in Adolf Hitler, kills 14 million people. Half of them Jews, the other half all the different mongrel races, including the people with mental defects like myself, people with Asperger's syndrome. So my relatives, because those are my people, the people who had Asperger's syndrome and were saved by his top medical doctor, Hans Osberg, who saw that these people are bright enough to work. Where does he put them? He puts them in the space program or computers, all this. So the other thing I'm aware of is the Asperger's people are the most dangerous people in the world. They're fine with creating nuclear bombs. They don't care how they're used, as long as they're getting a good paycheck. So what I'm trying to say is that we're the same people in charge in Germany and Italy and Russia during the Second World War, the same people in charge here, like Hitler in the bunker. There's a movie called Snowpiercer. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it shows society as this train running around in the world in the Ice Age. And in the back cab cars, there are people eating bug food. There are people eating Soylent Green. There are people that, the blood is boiling. And then the thugs are, beating them and keeping them working. You go through the cars, and at the top car, everybody's having a party. It's like, dude, they're dancing. Well, that's a pure description. I don't know if this Korean who did the graphic novel was aware of what he was depicting, but that's depicting the Hitler bunker. At the end of when Götterdämmerung, Herbert von Karajan was playing the Wagner's Götterdämmerung. So the culture was, highest culture in Europe. And meanwhile, in the bunker, everybody was, partying. You see it in the another film with Bruno Ganz as Hitler. I forget what the name was. They parody it now. Like there's parody after parody about Hitler ordering troops that don't exist into Russia. Well, we're doing the same thing. If anybody was paying any attention, that's exactly what America's doing. And they're partying on till the break of dawn. And you have as I put on my video last night that nobody watches. I know why people aren't watching it, because they don't want to have an encounter with a close encounter of the third kind with reality. But in the Hitler bunker, it was the same thing. They're just partying. They're all doped up like Hitler was, completely doped up, no sense of reality, completely delusional, but you're going to live life to its max. You're going to, you've lived it to the max up until now, so you're going to keep living it to the max, and they don't care. The people inside the bunker don't care. They've lived their great lives. What's Pelosi's husband is out rapping his Porsche or whatever he's driving at high speed. You don't even know, because they don't broadcast it. All you know is he was caught driving drunk, and here's a picture of him all disheveled. That's the real Pelosi, not the one who shows up in suit and tie. As soon as that's over, they're off to the track or gambling or whatever gets them higher and higher and higher. And there's nothing higher than World War III. There's nothing higher than declaring war on Russia and then not paying the least bit of attention to what's happening in Russia. They're mobilizing 300,000 troops. Oh, he's evil. He's evil. Yeah, okay, fine. So I'm listening to another person say, "We've got to destroy him. We've got to destroy him." Oh yeah, it's an 80-year-old woman on a thing at the. Or my brain dead friend, he's evil. Give me another beer. Give me another. Let me have. This weighs, I don't know, 300 pounds, 400 pounds. Who knows? But the point I'm getting at is that the alcohol makes people's brains like Kerouac. That's what I was showing last night when I did the video that I'm uploading now. So this is a video after. It's in a sequence. And the one last night is showing the effects of alcohol in terms of brain damage. And it's on people like Alan Watts, who everybody follows as he's the lead guru. Alan Watts died of cirrhosis of the liver, which was described as being hard as a rock. But everybody says, well, we got so much out of Alan. Alan showed us the cosmos, and we migrated into like Alan was. We were transcendental beings. No, he wasn't a transcendental being. He was an alcoholic. dead, brain damage, alcohol. Anybody can talk that bullshit. I could sit here and talk totally bullshit out my ass for the whole time. Who can't? They're on every street corner talking their Buddhist bullshit, just like the Christian bullshit. But in reality, in the real world, you don't go off to become a butterfly, and you don't go raptured up into the heavens if your life on earth is spent as Dirty Harry and Magnum Force. That's the American model of reality. Like, that's what everybody's thrilled by. These movies that came out where else but the Warren Beatty's and his film Reds. He's a communist. He makes a film about how delightfully, it's called Romantic Rebel, because it was based on the life of John Reed, who was an American who goes over and watches the Russian Revolution and thinks it's just wonderful. Isn't this great? We're marching. Warren Beatty doesn't have. Does he have any idea what happened after Lenin and Stalin and Trotsky took charge, and then what happened after Lenin died, and then what happened to Trotsky, and then what happened to Zinoviev, and then what happened to Kamenev and Bukharin, and then what happened to the people of Russia? He doesn't care. As long as he's looking good, he's got he's a little puffy in the morning, so you don't shoot. You shoot with soft light later on. Is that what Warren Beatty really looks like in real life? Of course not. But the women just he wants to be. He's a narcissistic personality disorder, and I'd say if that was a general description of the psychosis Americans are in, it's delusions of grandeur, narcissism. Think the rest of the world is just enthralled by everything America does. Well, they're enthralled by these just blow the world up disaster movies. We never watch anything, or we don't care at all about, or read any books coming out of Europe, or read any books coming out of China or Mexico or anywhere else. It's no idea what the rest of the world is like. Well, let me just clue people in who don't. We blew up that pipeline. Americans sabotaged the pipeline that's going to freeze everybody in Europe, but not that anybody cares about the people in Europe, because they don't even pay attention to anything except what's on TV and what's our current. Are we going to get the elections back? We need to we need to get out there and vote this time, and we need to. So the Republicans get back in and straighten things out. There's no straightening this out. You declare World War III. You declare war against Russia. We declared war against Russia. I won't go into the background, but because who cares? Like at this point, who cares when you're in a battle to the death with Adolf Hitler or Mussolini or whatever? You don't say, oh, they're evil, they're evil, they're evil. Okay, we got that. Now what happens? We've declared war on the evil empire of Putin. Now what do? Do we draft soldiers? Oh no, we send all our weaponry over to Ukraine. Does that make any sense? No. We send our strategic oil reserve, drain that out and send it over there. Why do we do that? Because all these wealthy people are profiting. Their bank accounts are stacking up. Jeff Bezos is out on the biggest yacht that ever existed. That's where the propaganda comes from. It comes from Jeff Bezos. Washington Post reports whatever he tells them to report. Anybody who reports differently, or anybody and the social networks, anybody that says differently on a social network about these pharmaceutical profits, that it's a hugely for-profit industry. These people can kill people. They can tell them, get them to stand in line and insure, and they'll willingly do it here. Because I'm going to be saved from I'm going to be saved from Vladimir Putin when they are mobilized and they are going to destroy Ukraine in short order if Ukraine doesn't get out of the way. And then they'll just seal off that border. They have no interest in invading Europe. Why would they want to invade Europe? Putin is not Hitler. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. They don't have plans for world domination. The people that have plans for world domination are in the White House. We can't give up our empire. We have to maintain, we have to put boots on the ground in every single country. Putin doesn't have boots on the ground in every single country. China, all these other evil empires. An evil empire is defined by all their, and here you have people that are living in this country that are after, want to destroy their own government because it used to oppress their people. Well, they're part of the evil empire now. Get used to it. You're part of the evil empire now. You're living here. Where else are you going to live? Well, nobody's going to defend you while you're destroying, while you're out bringing socialism to America. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And in any place that it used to exist, after millions of people died, or fascism, whatever you want to call it, it's political fanaticism. So that's the level of delusion Americans are in, and that's why call it a prophecy, call it whatever you want to call it. But I've seen this coming, and I have dreams of it coming, and I hear all these. I tune into these YouTube videos, and it's just what it says in the Bible that in the last age, your young men will have visions, and your old men will have dreams. Well, dream dreams. Doesn't mean they're going to be pleasant dreams. They aren't pleasant dreams. But you'll be able to understand these dreams. I'm able to understand and interpret the dreams just like so many other people that are having them across the spectrum. Well, and these are the people that aren't inspecting their own navels, that just get up and do a job and try to make ends meet and try to serve God. They pray. Just like on the video last night, Leonard Ravenhill, that's what I'm pointing towards. I'm pointing towards prayer because that's the only salvation. There's not going to be any victory in World War III against Russia. You declare war, and one person wins and the other person loses. And I'd say any rational person looking at the state of, I watched a videotape of Russian footage of Putin in Moscow Square, where this beautiful domes, onion domes, and everybody's well dressed and they're adoring Putin. He's brought the country together. He's reunited countries on his purpose. From there, you have to see it from the enemy's point of view. That's always our problem. You don't look at who the North Vietnamese are. You don't look at who the Iraqi people are. You don't look at Syria. You don't look at Libya. You don't look at Somalia. You don't look at Nicaragua. You don't look at what the culture is. The people. It's all you have your hammer. So everything's a nail. Just pound them, pound them, pound them with bombs. Carpet bomb them. Well, that ain't playing in Russia. It ain't playing in Russia, and it ain't playing using a proxy army like the Ukrainians with a madman who doesn't care about his people. Zelensky doesn't care about his people. He's going to fly off just like Karzai or just whoever the last president of Afghanistan was. They'll just bail out. Or Salinas de Gortari, anybody remember him in Mexico? He's Harvard Business School trained. He just where's he end up? You have just like the Clintons. They've robbed the people blind. How is Clinton Foundation, multi-million-dollar? Well, that's because of donations from who? From people who expect to get favorable legislation, for people who want their businesses treated well in legislation. Everybody knows Made in America is crap. Nobody's driving American cars. Ford Motor Company's lost 54% down. I didn't hear that about Toyota, or I didn't hear it about Pelosi. Was he driving a Porsche? Or the guy who just talked about fondling women's breasts? He's in what, a Mercedes-Benz SLR or whatever. You know they're doing it. It's just they don't talk. You know, it's bad manners to talk about it. So I'm sure he doesn't care. I'm sure he doesn't care what you think. Why would he? What Twitter thinks. Now the Twitterverse goes crazy. See, he's never going to see any of them. Or you, whoever you are. When I say you means the general fool that's on Twitter and has to have their opinion about whether we're going to invade this or that country and who should be the next target of our insanity, and never thinking that there's going to be any consequences. Because in the past, the consequences have all been felt by the Europeans or by the Africans or what. And what are the consequences in Europe of the war, our wars in the Middle East that they participated in as well? It's flooding Europe with refugees from bombed countries. This is just reality. Man, reality is all I'm pointing to. It's all I'm pointing out. That people have to wake up to this one way or another, because it's going to wake them up, and stop watching the bloody news. It's 100% lies. I mean, if you want entertainment, go elsewhere than to see liars lie to you. Invest. Why do I know what's happening in Russia and Europe? Because I'm watching the pictures don't lie. When I see Putin addressing his people, and it's like beyond. It's not a Nuremberg rally. He's just talking, and he's talking, and they're enthusiastic. It's not anything more than an announcement that they've brought the four countries back into the Russian Federation. So people, and they know how powerful they are as a people. I contrast that with the people in Czechoslovakia or Poland or France. If France, Macron shows up, they're throwing tomatoes at him. That's how much they think their government is doing a great job. They've gotten rid of them in Italy, so now they have a Mussolini-style woman in Italy. So they're far right. So they're the EU is broken up along with us bombing their pipelines, so they won't have any natural gas. And believe me, they notice who did that. And I don't see Americans as being much beloved country once they've destroyed your access to gas, so we can sell them gas. So that's what the logic of it was. Just like everything else, it's money logic. It's finance. You know, we've got our investors. That's the people given the Clinton administration or the Biden administration or whomever. All the administrations. Everybody knows this. They just don't. They just still believe them. I mean, that's where you really get severe psychosis, because everybody knows they're corrupt. Everybody knows they're liars. Everybody tells you the media is lie. And I said, well, where do you get your news? Oh, I watch the news. Oh, I know they're lying. Yes, I analyze it. And I know. Well, how do you analyze it? Because you're just watching a bunch of lies. How do you analyze it? Well, you know, if you're going to analyze it, you have to go to other news sources. You have to compare it to other news accounts to see which is a lie. And it's easy enough if you're simply looking at video footage and the statements of the Russian representatives about what happened to that pipeline. But everybody knows that, I mean, who in their right mind thinks Russia is bombing their own nuclear reactor, or Russia is bombing their own pipeline? That was an act of war. That's what has set off Putin, is saying, you know, okay, you know, if you're going to force me into using nuclear weapons while you're bombing my energy sources where income is coming in and profit, so that's disabled Russian natural gas is now unable to be sold to Europe, but it's also disabling Europe's ability to heat their home for the winter. So they're going to realize that when they're freezing, who did this? Who did this? They're going to know who did it. Russia was turning it back. He kept saying over and over and over, with nobody hearing the news, apparently, over and over and over, stop the sanctions on me and on Russia, and I'll turn the gas back on. Why would I turn the gas back when you're sanctioning, when you have sanctions on us? I mean, Putin's response, whatever you want to say, has been towards let's have peace. He's offered a peace plan over and over and over and over and over. I mean, even Henry Kissinger was saying this is insanity. We have to we have to accept this, that they took these countries. There's no way they're going to be dislodged. Whether Kissinger's realpolitik, he analyzes the facts on the ground and he comes to a logical conclusion. And it's not about throwing a fit. It's not these childish 3-year-olds, the Kamala Harrises and the people that elected them, that put on their pussy hats and this won't stand. You're not take your hands off my body. All this insanity. Your hands off your body. You take your hands off your body. But the masturbators that think that whatever doesn't suit them. Okay, now you've got a war, so why don't you go to your local military recruiting station because you wanted the war, sign up. Who's going to defend America against Russian military? They've got 300,000, and those people are just like anybody. They're patriotic and they're excited to defend their country, just like in the Second World War. People are signing up to go to war, just like in the Civil War. People are, except not in America. Not anymore. I mean, the Civil War, people to defend their homeland because they were going to be invaded. The North is, they built those armies practically overnight because they knew they were at war. Here we're at war, but not really, because we're only at war in Fantasyland. It's a Disney Fantasyland. We're watching TV. Tom Cruise will get him. He's in the most popular movie is Tom Cruise, because all we have to do is send Tom Cruise over there and a bunch of our crack people. They look just like Tom Cruise, like they're dashing and handsome, and they've all their lines, and they're always they got the big charming smiles like Warren Beatty and Jack Nicholson and Al Pacino. Send Al Pacino over and Barbara De Niro. Trump. This is gangster language. What we using expletives and everybody cheering. This is the the best you can come up with as a political point of view is to scream names at the other side. It's an appeal to common sense at the very least, to just pull away from the emotional reaction to everything because you're just being triggered by one side or another, that these people are abusive and those people are abusive, and then they're going to go down, and we're going to, and who's this we exactly? It's a bunch of crazy people spray painting buildings and assaulting people or stabbing people, or that's who the revolutionary vanguard is. And here's the thing I'll end up with. You just saw what's going to happen in Florida with DeSantis. I don't know if anybody watched his statement. I didn't. I just saw a video clip. And he said, anybody thinking about looting, anybody thinking about looting better think twice. Just like Hurricane Katrina. People were shot, looted that back then. And now, upcoming, is this, whether it's DeSantis or whether it's any city that has people looting and rioting and stealing from other people, has got to go full fascist, or people are losing their homes. But you have the liberal city, they're losing all their property, they're being stabbed, they're being assaulted, they're being pulled out of cars and beaten. In Chicago, I saw a scene where there's this public bus and they surround them and bang on the thing, bash the, it's complete anarchy. And what's their plan? What's the plan? So these are the people also calling for the defeat of Putin. The same people that have, anarchy in the streets. Who's looking at this anyway? Well, Putin and his generals are. You think the enemy is not watching this mentally ill circus and saying, they're loose with atom bombs. They've just blown up our So you send over the crack military, the special operations, to do the sabotage, but you have no army or military backing that up. That's just the news today, folks. That's all she. It's going to be all she wrote. I don't know any way that this isn't going to end badly. So, and all I can do is if there's any ears to hear, to listen. And as Paul said, we're given sound minds. We were all born with sound minds. I was watching these two kids with Down syndrome surrounded in a coffee shop. They're making a commercial for Down Syndrome National Awareness Month. The only people with sound minds were the two ones with Down syndrome. Everybody else is, they've got Johnny Cash tattoos, and they're, having 5 coffees, and here, we're eating now. They're surrounded by all their helpers, and I'm listening to the conversations. It's about, oh, I'm going to get my vacation home in Florida, and, what do you think? Well, this is the best place in the world to live. And, oh, yeah, hey, just wherever they are in their little social company, whatever else is going on in the Southwest and the farms, the fires, the earthquakes, that doesn't have anything to do with the economy. The railroad strikes, the resources, because they're in a prosperous area and well off, and the food's coming to their stores because they're in the Washington, D.C. area. But Washington, D.C. is going to, you don't, just like Rome and the barbarians, the people inside, or Hitler in the bunker, the people inside, having a great time, don't, they're going to wait up till the last moment before they notice that the rest of the country is sleeping in tents or sleeping in these camper vehicles, and we're preparing. Gas prices are going to shoot through the roof. Everything, inflation is out of control. It's just going to keep going up. If they put interest rates up, it's chasing the inflation. You have to have the interest rates on top, get ahead of the inflation. That's just economics. It's just the real world stuff. That's what I'm just trying to give some real information for people that aren't getting it anywhere else. God bless everyone, and God protect.